Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, you know what we're talking about.
Absolute fucking bullshit. Unprofessional bullshit.
That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast.
You just getting do drops, ain't telling nobody. Here, motherfucker, here's the drop.
I've been giggling about that for a while. Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. Buckingham Phallus. And sitting straight across from me, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Oh, just like a nice, quiet week of wrestling. 3 shows, a bunch of good matches. Nothing happened at all. Nothing happened at all. And on that lying note, I'll ask the congregation to bow their heads as I read from the latest edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 273, chapter 3, verse 14, and the good smart saying, #boo the heels. It's all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. The Holy Trinity of BFR. Speaking of Holy Trinity, I wonder if we did like a 6-man with like the Bucks, Ace, Punk. Who would be Punk's third partner? He'd have to have somebody. Would it be Dax? Would it be like MJF? I mean, it's just Danhausen. So many.
Serena Deeb?
No, I don't think.
Well, she was in the Straight Edge Society.
Okay, good point.
You know, who else was in there? Joey Mercury and Luke Gallows? Right?
I was going to say, jealousy from AJ might be a thing, but if she looks at it as a work, we're going to get paid, and, it might be something to it.
And out there in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon, we have Two Beers. Zach Pullman. What's going on, Two Beer?
BFR West in the house.
I am just sitting here incredulous that CM Punk killed the Queen of England. Unbelievable.
I must kill the Queen.
The timing is suspect.
He has kind of disappeared off the radar since the last 24 hours.
You can say what you will about the Queen of England, and you can say what you will about colonialism, and certainly I am not one to mourn somebody as powerful and with as much money as she had, but it is historical, but only for wrestling fans. Was it the second most historical thing this week? Because we will be talking about what transpired Sunday night after All Out for a long, long time. I've heard people call it, this generation's Montreal Screwjob. History will tell, but we have plenty to get into, so much to get into. Jason's making a face. I mean, as in terms of a news story, like something that's going to be talked about forever.
No, I'm trying to make the parallel to it, and that's going under the assumption that this is a work.
Well, the Montreal Screwjob wasn't. Anyway, we are coming at you from beautiful St. Charles, Missouri, sitting on my back deck on a Thursday night. And hey, buddy, we got lots of stuff to get to. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, kick it off.
Okay, all right. I was going to start with All Out, but let's just start with the matter at hand, and that is one Cookie Monster Punk. Obviously, I'm assuming that we're all caught up to date. We know what happened at All Out. CM Punk wins the AEW Championship back. So I just assumed after that they were going to do this press conference, media scrum. I'm not too interested in stuff like that. It's kayfabe for the sake of kayfabe. I don't necessarily need to hear much about it. I didn't pay attention to it. I go off and watch some Noah Pro Wrestling, and I come back to the reality, and I am being inundated by, tags on Twitter, Facebook, the whole shebang. Have you seen the CM Punk thing? Have you seen the CM Punk thing? I'm like, what the fuck did this motherfucker do? I mean, damn, he just finished a long-ass match, got his ass whooped a little bit. He whooped a little ass. He got the title back. I mean, what could he have done? And then I watched the video. For 2 minutes, he went on a barrage against Colt Cabana, Colt Cabana's mom, the Elite, kind of just made Tony Khan look like his bitch, because at a certain point I'm thinking, okay, Tony, you can step in at any point and just be like, okay, that's enough. Tony just sat there. It is awfully convoluted, but I'll do the best I can. But basically, this surrounds a couple of different problems with CM Punk having with the company. Number one, Colt Cabana and their previous relationship. He had made mention of the fact of how they were both in WWE and they were going to make it together, and one didn't make it. That was obviously Colt Cabana, and then Colt Cabana apparently, in CM Punk's words, got jealous, yada, yada, yada. Okay, another story for another time. When you bring mom's bank account into it and you're sharing a bank account, that's going past the point of, I don't care anymore. That's just petty. Why do I know? Because that would be something I would say. That's some petty ass shit. Now you can move on to the Hangman Page portion of the program, where he has a beef with Hangman Page about not taking advice from veterans, but more so the workers' right promo that we had talked about in the last couple weeks, where it seemed like Hangman Page spoke for some of the locker room. I won't say all of the locker room, because this locker room, I would assume, is fairly divided. I don't know by what lines, it doesn't matter, but you got Team Punk, you got Team Elite, I guess, for lack of a better word. Anyway, Punk took an exception to that, and he had made reference to that in this 2-minute video, saying he works for kids that couldn't manage a target. Shout out to Ham with the Target Manager's tagline for the trio's name for that group. I think that's...
Get yourself a sponsorship, guys.
I mean, that's absolutely Comedy Central. This is one of the funniest things I've heard in 2022. So... obviously, we have a problem at this point where Punk has now scorched earth, ethered, whatever word you want to use in the sentence. EVP's one of the better talents in the company in Hangman Page, and basically made Tony Khan look like his bitch. So, depending on what you read, who you read it from, there was some sort of incident in the back where the Elite confronted CM Punk in his locker room. Some reports he opened the door, others reports he didn't. Some people say he kicked the shit in. Doesn't matter. You got the Elite and CM Punk with Ace by his side, throwing chairs, apparently hitting Nick Jackson in the eye. Ace is biting Kenny Omega. I mean, it just sounds like an absolute shit show. Jericho comes out after his press conference. He shakes hands with Tony Khan. He's like, hey, there's some shit going on in the back. You can kind of see Tony like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, you might want to get back there. There's some shit going on in the back. So apparently there is a scrum of some sort in the back where you have the Elite and Ace and Punk fighting. I don't even care whose fault it is. I mean, everybody can take some blame into this shit as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead.
I'm gonna let me direct your thoughts to a certain place, because I feel like a lot of people are talking about the fight backstage. I think the fight backstage is less of a big deal. They are aggressive people. They are all in shape. They're all basically young men, youngish men that are in a competitive environment. So the fight,
testosterone was flowing.
Fights have happened backstage at wrestling since time immemorial. I want to hear what your thoughts are about what CM Punk said at the presser. And I don't feel like calling it a scrum. I'm just going to call it a presser. But what are your thoughts about CM Punk at the presser? And then I want to hear Zach's thoughts.
It sounds... Go ahead.
So much stuff has been said about it already. And I know that we're coming in here. We're doing our podcast 4 days later, which, a lot has happened in 4 days, but not everything. I want to hear your thoughts. Tell me what you thought about CM Punk.
It was one of the more bizarre things I think I've seen in a long time.
Do you feel like he was trying to get fired?
No, I just think that the frustration of answering the Colt Cabana question, and then now...
But apparently he didn't get asked the Colt Cabana question.
He didn't even get asked the question.
He launched into it.
Yeah, he sat down and just started talking.
Well,
no question.
The guy that asked him a question, the guy that asked him the question apparently used to do improv with Colt Cabana, and he was like, so you consider yourself a journalist, but you're friends with Colt Cabana, aren't you? He's like, well, I haven't talked to him in a few years. And he's like, yeah, me neither. And then he launched into the whole Colt Cabana thing. Dave Meltzer has said that he was there, and that he said that it looked to him in the room like Punk had gone up there with prepared statements.
Axe to grind. I mean, I could see that. I guess here's my problem with this whole thing, is that he's demanding other people to act like adults when he's not acting like an adult himself.
Okay.
If you got this much of a problem with Colt Cabana being on AEW or ROH or a part of this company, you probably knew that coming into this, and you signed with it anyway. You signed with them anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, that's not on TK. That's on CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
Now the problem with this shit with Hangman Page, and he's going off script and all this other shit. Okay. MJF said far worse shit to CM Punk. I'm going to assume that they had some sort of meeting backstage. Yeah, you can say this, you can't say that.
Or MJF took all of Punk's criticism and or pointers beforehand and afterhand and showed Punk the respect. I mean, after MJF beat him, we know that he knelt over Punk for a long time and said something to him that we have to assume was some sort of show of respect. Okay.
If Hangman Page doesn't do that, then that's another thing entirely. But this shouldn't play out in front of, journalists, and I'll use that in quotes, and the rest of the public. I'm sorry,
I get
they're
it.
just not.
I get it.
That's some shit that needs to be behind closed doors. If you got that much of a problem with it, once again, if you're playing the adult, then you need to be the adult. Instead of pointing like, oh, these guys are acting like kids, talking about, the EVPs or whatever, spreading rumors and all this other bullshit. The biggest guy that's doing the most complaining is the guy that's probably, I would say 50% at fault, at least, if we're going to play the blame game.
Zach, what are your thoughts on what Punk did?
I think it was pretty much a perfect exemplification of what this dude is, which is just a toxic, egotistical, talented, but toxic and egotistical, absolute piece of human garbage. That's my take on it. The dude just seems like an absolute asshole. I was talking about this before. Now that you mentioned the MJF thing, I really desperately hope that what we took as like a sign of respect, MJF just leaned over him and he's like, I just beat your fucking ass in Chicago and you're such a piece of shit and nobody likes you and I don't like you and you're going to be out of this company in less than a year because you're going to implode. But anyway, I'm just thinking about that, and retroactively he was probably saying nice things. But yeah, I mean, it was wild to watch. I likened it to the Montreal Screwjob just because we're going to be talking about this forever. And it does have aspects because, I mean, it's real life bleeding into wrestling. But, yeah, some things that I didn't like, besides Punk being an asshole, he didn't do anybody any favors. He acted like, said things about MJF like grass isn't greener, it's greener where you water it, and MJF shits where he eats. Well, what was sitting there, like, just tearing down the company that you work for, if not shitting where you eat? I mean, it was insane to me that how he devalued the company and just made everything about him. Yeah, he had just won the title. He just made everything about his feelings and his ego. And he says that, you have a guy who never did anything, which that guy who never did anything that he's talking about, Adam Page, literally carried the belt for a very long time, main evented numerous pay-per-views that outsold the pay-per-views that CM Punk headlined, did better draws on pay-per-view than CM Punk. He was part of one of the coolest storylines that I've ever seen in wrestling history, way cooler than anything I've ever seen CM Punk involved in. He was involved in phenomenal matches. And, here he is saying that these, EVPs, can't manage a target, which is a funny line. Very bougie. I mean, I don't think CM Punk could manage a target. Obviously melts down at like the slightest, little bit of anyone saying anything bad about him. The Young Bucks started the company that is allowing him to put food on the table. He waited 3 years to see if this thing would even succeed before he decided to deign to take his multi-million-dollar contract and then, step all over everybody that has built this thing up from nothing. I don't know, man. It was wild to me. But I mean, we can talk about the implications. You can obviously see what side of the fence I'm on in this situation. But yeah, I think Crashmore said it best: unprofessional bullshit.
Absolute fucking bullshit.
So there is there's a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways to attack this, and like I said, you've heard if you were glued to wrestling Twitter the way that I have been this week, then you've heard a lot of jokes. You've seen a lot of good memes. You've seen a lot of people taking it way too seriously. You've even seen a few people take Punk's side. There is nothing that you could say that would make me take Punk's side. And even Zach just brought up a couple reasons that only reinforced my thoughts on it that I hadn't even thought of yet. It's like, yeah, you did wait 3 years until this shit had already gotten built up. You are tearing down the guys that brought up this company. The part that really bothered me, and I've never been to a PWG show in Reseda, but when he takes a shot at those guys by saying these guys think they're still in Reseda, it's like, did you see the crowd out there? The crowd wants PWG writ large in a very big way in front of arenas. Like, don't take a shot at PWG. Don't take a shot at these guys just because they used to be in PWG all the time, because they've built this juggernaut. And granted, it's not as big as WWE, but it for what it is, which is a very viable alternative to WWE television, and your mileage may vary on that word alternative, but it's certainly not WWE. It fucking has been a success. It doesn't, to me, have WCW vibes. This incident's going to be a fork in the road for this company. And last night's Dynamite showed me that it looks like they're going to take the right road. Now, a couple other things that I haven't heard anybody else say. First of all, if you've ever been on cocaine or if you've ever been on Adderall and you have to sit there and not talk, you're going to nod your head, but you might not be listening. So I'm going to give Tony Khan the benefit of the doubt and say that he wasn't listening to a fucking word Punk said.
Dude, and he was just not.
Yeah, and he was just nodding along. I sympathize with that. Being somebody that, no, I'm kidding. Somebody that I've never done a press conference on blow. Been to, I don't know. I'm not good.
Nice semantics there.
Just not gonna go on. The other thing that I haven't seen anybody mention, and I've seen some people say that they were always anti-Punk, and like friend of the show, Lowell Holiday, gets on Twitter and he said that he's always hated Punk since 2002. I believe him. He seems genuine when he says that. I see a lot of other people retrofitting that they weren't fans of Punk in WWE. I'm not going to do that. I was a massive Punk mark when he was in WWE. The thing about Punk, though, and the difference between the WWE stuff and the AEW stuff is that in WWE, he was the indie guy that was going against the big, bad McMahon, Helmsley regime, whatever it was at the time. It's fun to root for a guy who's legit trying to change the way that WWE works. And it seemed to me like he actually did for a little while. Now, he might not have ever main evented, but he also never brought in the money that John...
He never main evented at WrestleMania.
He rarely main evented pay-per-views, though, also.
This is true, too.
It was always Cena. Even when Cena didn't have the belt, Cena main evented, and he would always be the third to last match. I remember there was a SummerSlam where it was Punk versus Daniel Bryan, and Randy Orton cashed in afterwards, and they main evented, but it seemed to me they only main evented because Randy Orton was going to cash in.
Right.
When you are doing a press conference and you're railing against this thing that everybody watches but also everybody likes, everybody watched WWE back then, but not everybody liked it. It was really the only game in town, which is what eventually gave birth to the indie boom that we're kind of seeing now and the wrestling boom that we're kind of seeing now. When you're sitting there railing against guys that everybody loves, guys that decide to make their own way in the business, guys that are trying to give people an alternative to the kid shit that is WWE, you're not going to everybody's not going to have your back anymore. And we're seeing that. You sound bitter. You sound like you finally got your way. You're not in WWE. You just won the title against somebody who's getting as big of a babyface pop as you in your home city in Jon Moxley, because that, make no mistake, that crowd was just as into Jon Moxley as they were into CM Punk on Sunday night. And you're still going to act, if you meet an asshole in the morning, you met an asshole. If you meet assholes all day, you're the asshole. He's the asshole. And there's not anything that anybody can say to me that will make me kind of take Punk's side, because what he did was so many people, hundreds of people, put in hard work to put on the all-out pay-per-view. Probably their biggest pay-per-view of the year. If not, they only do 4 big ones a year. And he decided to eclipse all of them with his
absolute fucking bullshit.
And he decided to take away from all of their work, and that's all that anybody talked about. So, from this fan's perspective, fuck CM Punk. Also, why are you bringing up Colt Cabana's mom, dude?
Unnecessary.
Let it go.
Dude, it's over.
You won.
It's over. Okay.
He will never let anything go. That's why I don't really see a future for him. If you guys want to talk about what speculate the future, I just don't. I don't see it because the dude has such a terrible ego. The perceived slight, the Adam Page promo that nobody knew what Adam Page was even talking about. Nobody even really put 2 and 2 together, except maybe super insiders. And then he's going to sit and stew on that for 3 months and then come back in his first promo back. He's going to harken back to Adam Page whenever he's trying to set up a match with Jon Moxley and go into business for himself and do that. Nobody cared but CM Punk. And, besides that, there's the interview that Page did where he said, I just kind of like to focus on myself and trial and error. He's like, I don't go to a lot of veterans for advice. And CM Punk wants to take that personally. Who gives a shit if they don't want your advice? He's so egotistical. He only gives a shit about his feelings and his, perceived injustices against him. I can't imagine him doing business and turning this into an angle or something. What do you guys think is going to happen?
Well, I think some of this has to do with the Punk of CM Punk's health. Apparently, he has some sort of legit injury that happened during the match.
Tricep tear.
Okay,
out 8 months.
Okay, so that could be to his benefit. Being out of sight, out of mind might just take some of this heat away from him for a little bit if Tony Khan wants to keep him around. For me, I've seen people you can't fire CM Punk. He does all this. He sells a bunch of merch, blah, blah, blah. I see other people like Bill, fuck CM Punk. He can go right now. I'm leaning towards the kind of the fuck CM Punk. He can go right now. It would be different if this was a struggling company. Granted, I've been on record to say that this company has a bloated roster and you probably need to trim some of this fat. I wasn't considering CM Punk a part of this fat until maybe about 5-10 minutes ago. It just really feels like there's no real way. Either he's got to come back and acquiesce to the guys he just napalmed, or he has to go his other way. If I think I know CM Punk, which I don't, but I think I know of him, I think he's just going to be like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm out. I'm going to go ahead, get my triceps repaired, and then figure it out from there. If he wants to stay with the professional wrestling, which he doesn't have much options at this point, I'm pretty sure WWE is not going to come knocking at his door, and I'm sure he's not going to go to WWE's door. Either he's going to have to come back hat in hand, which seems borderline impossible for me to even imagine happening, or they're just going to have to release him and eat the contract and just go about their separate ways. For me, I don't think they need CM Punk. It would be nice to have him around because you've got some storylines going that you could really make some money off of. The MJF thing is a slam dunk, and that's another reason why I just can't understand why CM Punk just did this. You've got a money match on deck. Why? Why now?
Like, there's part of me that thinks that he knew that he tore his tricep and he was just fuck you, you're cool, fuck you on his way out, because he also sang the praises of Adam Cole, baby, during that same presser.
Okay, but then if you're talking about being professional, if you're talking about being an adult, shouldn't you be the one leading said example?
I can't see, to answer Zach's question, you never say never in pro wrestling. We've never quite had something like this. Something that got bandied about on wrestling Twitter this week was talking about how CM Punk thinks he's a Brett, but he's actually Sean, which is in '96, which is really funny. Zach might have even said it last week on the pod. We might have been talking about that last week. Maybe if you would have put a microphone in front of HBK's face after a pay-per-view in 1996, maybe he would have said something similar to this. It seems like a fun idea. They do it in Japan. It's extra content for the diehards, pretty much. I don't see how there's any way that we ever see CM Punk in a wrestling ring ever again. It's kind of like Will Smith going back to the Oscars. It's almost impossible to think about. And that's really what I compare this to. Like, for a wrestling fan like us, like, that Will Smith thing was so fucked up that I thought about it for like a week afterwards.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Is this a work? Is this a work?
This thing was so fucked up that I've been thinking about it all week. I can't wait to not think about it. I want to get it all out on the table. Zach, what do you think is going to happen going forward?
I think he's done. I think whether Tony allows him to retire, because dude, first of all, the match was awesome. We'll talk about that in a minute, but he did get injured, and this is the second time in a row he's not been able to defend that title. Whether or not, no matter how much merchandise he sells, the dude's an absolute liability. He's a liability.
Well, now, in the ring and now outside the ring, that's a two-part problem. I mean, if you're going to be able to be depended on as the champion, then you have to be available to defend the title or, cut promos or shit like that. If you can't do the bare minimum, is just to show up and just cut promos against MJF, Moxley, Danielson, whomever, that's a problem. And John Moxley's the latest fucking prophet of this whole thing. He called that motherfucker brittle. And sure as shit, the last couple times you've seen him, he's jumped in the stands. That's his own fault.
I think he said brittle body, brittle ego, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's
basically what he said. And now
John
it's coming to pass.
I'll tell you what, if Tony Khan, if he feels like he hasn't made his return on what he paid Punk, because Punk might have sold some pay-per-views, Punk might have sold some tickets, but both times he was champion for less than 3 days each time before he had to give it up, or at least he never made it to the Dynamite, I don't think. If Tony Khan wants to make his money back and he can still use CM Punk's name under contract, I would sell CM Punk shirts that said CM Punk on the front. On the back, it says, no, it's fragile. On the back, it says fragile ego, fragile body. That would be a badass shirt, right?
Wait, shit, dude.
Make that money back, TK.
We got ideas for you, TK.
Guy tried fucking with you while you were on blow.
No, dude, and I'll say this, and I'll be done with this portion of CM Punk until we talk about the physical match itself. If I'm Tony Khan, you have to make a stand in some form or fashion. Vacating the titles is cool. Suspension is cool. But CM Punk
you gotta fire him.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You have to crack down on this motherfucker.
Not to mention, you're trying to make sure, you got
You can't lose the whole locker room over CM Punk.
You also, what does Warner Brothers Media or whatever think about this when they see that your company looks like it's completely imploding right before your very eyes?
And the world champion is pushing the lever.
Right.
Zach, yeah, he's a total liability. Like, that's the key. And what do you do whenever you have a company? Is you attempt to decrease your liability, and the easiest way to do that, and they absolutely showed on Wednesday, which we can talk about. They showed 100% that company does not need CM Punk.
They didn't even say his name.
Absolutely. I mean, and they put on a great show. Like they always do. It was business, like I said on Friends of BFR, it was business as usual, which is fine with me because before this bullshit, the business was pretty fucking good. Before we go, I do want to mention one of the best things about this happening is dicking around on wrestling Twitter and seeing all these past promos that Triple H has cut, that Cody Rhodes has cut, that Hangman Page, that Jon Moxley,
Eddie Kingston. That's the one that really
all
sticks
these
out.
Promos that got cut on CM Punk, and you just realize that these guys were shooting the entire fucking time. All the way back to 2011 with Triple H. They were shooting the entire time. Zach, which one of those is your favorite?
Man, I have to say the Eddie Kingston one was phenomenal, but I had never seen the Triple H one because I just wasn't watching, and Triple H just murdered him. It was impressive, and it also, like, I don't know, like, more things change, more things stay the same. And kind of, TK wanted CM Punk from the beginning, and he got the full CM Punk experience.
Yeah, and Triple H or somebody that was close to, or somebody said that a source at WWE said, well, good, he's their problem now. The Triple H one was really good. What's really fun to think about in that Triple H one is that Triple H was the heel.
Right.
And CM Punk was the baby face in that one. The Cody one really gets me because I remember Cody saying during the promo, some people told me to save this promo. He's like, but I don't think that I'll get a chance to say it. Cody read he read the writing on the wall, and he knew that bringing CM Punk in there was going to not be a good idea, and that it was, I mean, that promo when he was talking about how all the things that CM Punk said he was are basically that he was all talk, and Cody was actually doing what CM Punk laid out. He was actually trying to revolutionize the business. He was actually there for the fans. He was actually, you can say what you want about Cody Rhodes, and you may like him, you may not like him, and maybe it was a good decision, maybe it was a bad decision for him to say, if I lose this match, I never get the challenge for the AEW world title. But, I mean, that's pretty selfless, and I think that we can all agree that it's not something that CM Punk would have done.
No, and I tell you, another thing, we met Cody Rhodes just a few years ago at an indie show when he was holding a world title, and he was the nicest dude. Like, he's one of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met. He was super gracious. And can you imagine, like, even just getting a hello out of CM Punk?
It would
feel
feel like
fuck you out of him.
Yeah, I was about to say it would be like pulling teeth like MJF. Well, when we crossed paths with his ass. I mean, damn.
But really, I mean, you think about 2 weeks ago when CM Punk called that dude fat in the front row. It's like you can make fun of a dude for never getting laid, but you had to call him fat, because he's chanting Colt Cabana. In fact, the whole thing might be that guy's doing. Maybe that guy started the whole fucking thing.
I don't want to get off on conspiracy theories, but I read a fun one and I had to share it, which was, rumor has it that Kenny Omega, he got bit by Ace Steel. We all heard those. Nobody, so essentially nobody disputes that CM Punk punched Matt Jackson and he was the first one to throw a punch. Nobody disputes that Ace Steel threw a chair at Nick Jackson and hit him in the eye, and that he pulled Kenny Omega's hair and he bit him. So those are all things that everybody agrees on happen. But I read a funny story on Fightful that Kenny Omega was initially just trying to get Larry, CM Punk's dog, to safety.
Yeah,
because the
I
dog
also saw
was
that.
barking. So somebody posted a funny conspiracy theory. I don't know if it was Twitter or Reddit, but they said, what if Larry was the one that bit Kenny, but nobody wants to narc on Larry, so they're all saying that Ace Steel bit him, and Ace Steel's gonna fall on the sword and maybe lose his job just so CM Punk's dog doesn't get put down.
Oh no, that's great.
I mean, at least CM Punk has a legacy besides this. This is all Ace Steel's going to be known
This is
for.
it.
Like
This
when he
is
dies,
it.
it's going to be like, remember when he cut that one promo right before he bit Kenny Omega? Anyway, R.I.P.
Anyway, stay tuned for House of the Dragon and Fear the Walking Dead.
Man, if that was going to be my career highlight, man, you can kill me now, dog. I ain't gonna be the one that bit Kenny Omega, man. Fuck that.
All right, so we have spent about 35 minutes on this. I feel like that's pretty good. Is there anything else that you guys have to say about CM Punk? Can we get on to the actual wrestling of it?
Yes, please.
All right, the counts are going to be all fucked up here, but let's get to that 2 count.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, I have one more thing to say about CM.
Jesus
the whole
Christ.
situation. I mean, one last thing
Man,
to
hurry
say
up,
about the
make
whole
it fast.
situation. The whole thing was
Absolute fucking bullshit. Unprofessional bullshit.
Hey, 2 beer, what's the 2 count?
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, that's gonna be a drop until the beefers come back around.
Drop of the year. It's going to win the Beefers.
It is. I mean, Tim Robinson won an Emmy. So. Yeah,
So
congrats
good.
to Tim Robinson. But as we'll talk about AEW All Out, seems like so long ago.
Jesus.
That whole thing just really did. It overshadowed the whole weekend. I actually
Dude.
ended up forgetting to watch Worlds Collide because of all this. So anyway, we had the 0 hour. We can just run through. We don't have to spend a ton of time on every match or anything because a podcast would be
6
way
hours
too long. But I will say that overall, I was not upset that I purchased this pay-per-view, but I thought that for the most part, usually these are like very good shows, like top to bottom. I was really like maybe like 4 matches I was into over the whole 5 hours. It was like probably 5 matches, and that was not a good cadence for me. Whenever there was 15 matches on the card, and I was really only into 5 of them, so it was a good show. It was not their best show, and maybe it's good that the CM Punk thing has caused so many people to lose focus on the actual show, because if it's one thing that AEW does well, it is rebound after a tragedy. The Brody Lee episode of Dynamite was maybe one of the best episodes of wrestling television ever created.
With that and Owen Hart,
And
Eddie Guerrero is probably in that same little tier. But yeah, those 3 shows I think are the 3 best shows I think I've ever seen.
and then this week's Dynamite was fantastic, and I think it kind of might have just laser focused them, and they're so we'll see. Anyway, it was kind of tangential, but I just kind of wanted to get my sentiments out about the pay-per-view at large, without getting into specifics about the matches. So
right.
We had a mixed tag with Sammy Guevara and Tay Mello versus Ruby Soho and Ortiz, and this thing was a mess. It was not good. Ruby Soho almost died numerous times, and then she did eventually get her nose fully broken on the final spot of the match, which shit happens. That's the thing. I'm not gonna like call out like Tay and say she's like inexperienced or whatever. Like, shit happens. Like, it's just a thing. But I think the reason a lot of people were up in arms about this is there was a lot of sloppiness in this match. I thought it was hilarious that Ortiz was dressed like Bull Nakano, though. That shit cracked me up. But yeah, so that's what I thought about this.
Call back to the golf cart is the biggest thing. My biggest takeaway from this match. 0 Hour is what it is. I mean, it's for guys like me that want to get their merch, and to me, that's the first thing I would get. That's what I got when I went to Forbidden Door. When we got in the door, I'm going for merch. I'm not worried about 0 Hour. But I did go back and watch it. It's basically, like you said, it was pretty sloppy from start to finish. But to me, the high spot was watching Sammy Guevara getting ran down, or attempted to get ran down by the golf cart. Outside of that, it is what it is. I don't know. I'll just get my overall thoughts on All Out, and then I'll kick it over to Bill here in a second. I thought this was honestly one of the worst AEW pay-per-views they've done in probably 2 years. It wasn't a lot of great builds coming up to it. There was not a lot of matches that I was looking forward to. And the few matches that I were looking forward to, Christian and Jungle Boy is the big one. If that's the way you were going to go, if Christian was legit hurt, then just take the match off the card and just be done with it. I mean, like you said, there's 15 matches. You take one off, there's 14 matches. I mean, there's still plenty of fucking matches for other things to go around. Now Christian, gets the squash win, and now he goes away. I'm like, dude, I get it. You get heat on Christian, but you really don't need heat on Christian. You could play it where he's being a little bitch or whatever the case may be. From that point, it was, questionable booking, some sloppiness here or there. The matches that I thought were going to delivered for the most part. I was not very impressed. And usually AEW pay-per-views for me are a big deal. I'm ready to roll. I had my Red Bull going, and it just, for me, it fell flat.
So sorry, I had to go inside and check on the baby and take a piss. So
without getting into specifics, we just gave our general thoughts on the show without getting into specific matches or anything. Just how you felt about the show.
I mean, I pretty much agree with Jason. I think that it was, compared to other AEW pay-per-views, yes, it was on the lower end. There was definitely stuff about it I liked. I really didn't hate the Christian Jungle Boy thing, because not only did it get heat on Christian, but now Jungle Boy can transfer over to a feud with Luchasaurus and go over there.
Told you didn't flip.
Danielson and...
Called that.
Yeah, you did. Well, Danielson and Jericho underdelivered. I don't think that there's any other way to say it. I don't know if the crowd was tired. I don't know.
This was a quiet crowd from the jump. I mean, outside of few spots here and there, this was a pretty subdued crowd.
I mean, they were hot as fuck for Ishii Kingston. They were hot as fuck for Punk Moxley.
What did I say?
For the most part. I do want to give Jason his props, because Jason almost had a perfect...
There's no way I went undefeated.
Almost.
Really?
The only one that you missed.
Only missed one?
And it was the multi-man ladder match at the beginning. Yeah. If you would have picked TBD as number one, you would have had a perfect 14-match pay-per-view.
I'll take 13.
Which is, we've never seen anything like that here on the Band from Ringside podcast. That is really impressive.
That was the liquor talking.
You picked every single match correctly except for that one. And you had TBD as your third most likely to win. That is a...
Sign up for your free account on DraftKings, the official sponsor of AEW.
That is...
next thing you know, I'll be losing money left and right.
Credit where it's due.
Thank you.
Jason, that's very good. I'll also give the rundown for... I'll just give the points for all three pay-per-views. Jason came in first with 29 points. Zach came in second with 27 points. I came in third with 25 points. Really, that multi-man match, that's the reason that Zach beat me, and that's the reason that that's the reason that Jason only won by 2, was because Zach had TBD as the very first choice. Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Obviously,
here we can move on here real quick.
Yep.
Through the card. So we talked about the opening match. Then we had super quick squashes. This is definitely Bill's favorite match on the show. I'm sure Hook versus Cool Hand Ange with a celebrity run-in. You love this?
That's me laughing.
I honestly didn't see it. The only match that I watched from the 0 Hour was Eddie Kingston because I watched it today. I called Zach because I couldn't figure out Bleacher Report, and it was even after this multi-man ladder match. And Zach had to tell me what happened with the Sympathy for the Devil. I went back and watched it today. And then from there, I was watching it live with my boy Vice and my boy Ham.
That's what's up.
And we were having fun.
Nice. I might have more fun if I was very tired by the end of the show. I might have more fun if I was watching with someone. Then we had Sabian versus Pac, which was a solid match. As soon as Kip Sabian started talking to the cardboard box, though, it killed the crowd and it killed me. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. So we had Sabian lose his first match back after more than a year and then sit screaming at a box in the middle of the ring. Real deal pre-show stuff.
WWE shit, but, that's kind of my problem with one of my problems with the pay-per-view. Go ahead.
And then we had an awesome match. This is like A+ stuff. Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii, which we've seen this before one time. Ishii had beaten Kingston, New Japan Strong, and they got 20 minutes, and they just beat the shit out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it was exactly what you would want. It was exactly what you would expect, and I loved it. I loved every second of it.
I was into this. It wasn't my favorite Ishii match, but we've seen lots of Ishii matches here on the Band from Ringside podcast, being the G1 fans that we are.
Amen.
But yes, this is exactly what I wanted out of these two guys. The only thing that kind of sucks about it is that it was not the hardest hitting match of the weekend. It was not the most brutal match of the weekend, which we'll get to later. But
I won't say it's the best match of the weekend. If you're guessing if you're talking about what I'm talking about, that was the match of the weekend.
But it was very fun, yeah.
Cool. Then we kicked off the show with the casino ladder match. Didn't seem like there was a whole lot of time before the finish. There was some weird stuff in this match.
It was like 12 minutes. It was not very long.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I didn't get a time on it, to be perfectly honest. It didn't feel like it was long, especially in this scenario where it's a ladder match and you expect more spots, especially with AEW. You expect high spots, Phoenix, Roosh, Andrade, all in the same match. I'm expecting some shit to go down. I guess
we got
go ahead.
some stuff.
No, but I mean,
stuff.
It wasn't. I expected this to be like a 20-minute, 25-minute match at the most, where everybody gets in and then you start getting the chaos happening. I don't know who said it at Tinder's apartment or whatever, but it just eventually leads to where we're getting ready to go at the end. What if somebody just goes up the ladder and gets the chip before everybody comes out? And ultimately, that's what ended up happening, is Stokely goes up with the help of his crew or whatever, and he gets the chip and then basically hands it off to MJF, which I was kind of hoping that we would get some clarity on that on Dynamite on Wednesday. We really didn't, but neither here nor there. I just think the way that they did it was just weird to people, and people didn't know how to react to it. And I think that kind of threw the crowd off, and it kind of started the pay-per-view off on a wonky start, because we're programmed to think certain ways. And especially with this match, we're programmed to think everybody gets in and then everything happens. This was totally off script because they went ahead. The sixth guy came in, got the shit.
It's also the curtain jerker, which is why Zack Ryder won the U.S. title at WrestleMania that one year, because they wanted to pop the crowd. They wanted to pop the crowd at the very beginning and make the crowd hot for it,
Upon retrospect, I get why they did it, but
they're telling a bigger story. Yeah.
At the time, I'm sitting there like, what the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this Joker? So, of course, I'm on Twitter trying to figure it out, MJF is one of the prime suspects. And I'm
when
like, okay, that makes sense.
When I called Zach and I was like, how do you get Bleacher Report to work? And he told me, and then he goes, I was like, hey, what happened in the first match? He's like, Sympathy for the Devil played. Guy came down in mask. He's like, it was obviously MJF.
Well, see, I
was like, cool, right on.
I didn't know that Sympathy was the devil. Sympathy of the Devil was a thing, and we really couldn't hear it too well. So if I didn't know those two things, I'd have probably got it just as fast. Neither here nor there. I mean, I'd rather it be a little bit of speculation where, who do you think it is? Who do you think it is? Versus immediately knowing it was MJF.
Yeah, it was just kind of weird because the match itself had, it didn't seem like Andrade or Rush were like particularly interested in winning, which always bugs me about ladder matches. Guys are not.
Okay, more to my point. They were like one of the second or third guys in, and they basically had the advantage. They did the LFI, fist pump or whatever, and then they setting up all kinds of other crazy shit. I'm like, okay, neither one of you jokers want to get this chip. That's my problem with this match.
Absolute fucking bullshit. Unprofessional bullshit.
I ain't gonna go that far. But
what the wrestling that we did have was good. Penta came down and Canadian destroyed Dante Martin on the ramp before he even got down.
I'm like, damn,
there was
dog.
some fun stuff.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's what I expected. And then when I got the end, I was just kind of like, okay.
You kind of need a big guy in one of these matches, though. You kind of need somebody to kind of offset all the little high flyer guys.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but you got.
I would have put Morrissey in there.
Maybe down the line. I don't know what they're going to do with that faction. Wednesday did nothing to clear that up at all.
No.
Yeah, and so I will just go on record and say I loved the intrigue and like the Sympathy for the Devil was like special because like you never hear like the Stones because their rights fees are so expensive. So
we were all saying that they coughed up a nice little chunk of change for that one.
Yeah,
first song I ever remember hearing, Sympathy for the Devil. Me and my sister jumping up and down on my parents' bed in our underwear. My dad was going, ooh, 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 ooh. I was probably like, I think it was pre-Jacob, so I was probably 2.5 years old.
Damn, you remember that far back?
That's wild.
It's the first thing it's my first memory is listening to Sympathy for the Devil on my dad's little clock radio thing. I mean, my dad was probably 27. I know, it's stupid to think about. Anyway, what was next?
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
My head just exploded.
He had a pair of rolled up socks. He was doing the microphone. He was being Mick Jagger. That's the way I remember it anyway. Sarah, my sister has no recollection of this at all.
I bet she doesn't.
So then we had the Elite versus Hangman and Dark Order, which is a relic at this point. But this was an awesome match, and I mean these guys went out there and put it all out there, and we knew it would be good, and it absolutely delivered. I think Alex Reynolds and John Silver really elevated themselves here, stepped up because they were in there with like 4 world-class talents, and they showed that they can hang. And they should be super proud of this match because it was awesome. But lots of intrigue between Hangman and the Elite, some callbacks, to, as I had mentioned, one of the greatest wrestling stories ever told that is still being told right now between Hangman and the Elite. But Bucks and Kenny win it, and Kenny stands up on the ramp and starts talking to the camera, and the guy starts moving back, and he's like, "Don't you fucking move back, bitch!" I was like, "Oh my god, this is aggressive." And he's like, "You guys in the back," he's like, "You aren't going to top that. Nobody's going to top that." And I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "This is like, I mean, is he working or is he shooting?"
That's a little shooters.
So
yeah,
I rewatched this match today. Sorry to cut you off. Rewatched this match today, and I saw Kenny say that again. And when I was drinking and smoking and I watched that, I really didn't think that much of it. But watching it in hindsight, I kind of wonder if that kind of pissed Punk off also.
Come on, man. Anything would piss this dude off.
Listen, I'm not blaming Kenny at all because to me that this was the match of the night. I have 5 best matches of the weekend. I watched every match this weekend. This was one of the 5 best matches of the weekend.
Agreed.
It was probably number 2 or 3. And I loved it, and I'm with Zach. I think that Alex Reynolds, a guy that I haven't really paid attention to. I've probably chopped him a couple times on this podcast, just being like, who the fuck is this guy? I thought that he was outstanding in this match. This was a tremendous trios match.
It was good wrestling. It was good psychology. It sets up, a lot of different things and coming down the line, To me, the intrigue of the match is when early on you had Hangman was like, hey, that's his arm, or, hey, that's his, fill in the blank, injury to the Elite, showing sympathy to the Elite, and the Dark Order was just like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? We're trying to win the trios titles. That, to me, was the whole intrigue of the match. The match itself, I thought was really good. Like you said, it was
loved it when Kenny and Page dragged Nick Jackson and Alex Reynolds back to their respective corners so they could tag themselves in because those guys were both knocked out, and then it was Kenny versus Hangman again. I loved when Kenny went for the one-winged angel on John Silver, and John Silver turned it into a roll-up, and I was like, holy shit, here we go.
Thought that was the match right there.
John Silver is a guy that has a lot of respect from Kenny Omega just to be able to reverse that one-wing angel like that. I mean, as stupid as pro wrestling is, that is something that you would only allow somebody that you absolutely respect their work in the ring to be able to do.
Agreed.
Yeah, so the crowd was dead, as was I for the next 3 matches. So this was a definite lull. Could have used some, should have taken like a time release Adderall at the beginning, and it would have kicked in right here. So, but we had Athena versus Jade, TBS title. Not a bad match, but I think one thing that kind of sucked was Athena did her finisher, and the baddies were supposed to pull her out of the ring, but they screwed it up and they waited too long, so Jade had to kick out. So, Athena's finisher is supposed to be a little bit more protected than that. At least Jade kicked out, and they didn't, do like a shoot, count or whatever. But, Jade Cargill has ultimate star potential. She is a star. Like, she carries herself so well. She still just, needs experience. She needs more of these matches before things get really good. It was one of the better Jade Cargill matches. I'm not coming down on her. She's awesome. And she has a ton of potential, but it's just okay.
I don't know. I was not impressed. I mean, on both sides of the fence. I didn't think Athena was that good. I didn't think Jay was that good. Their chemistry was off. It just, I don't know. I agree with you on Jay being a star. Okay, she has the physical look.
It's undeniable.
Her matches have not been that good.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing to say about this match.
She has never had a good match.
Right, and that's my problem with
she has never had a good match. She's pretty dominant. I really, for somebody like Jade Cargill, I care less about the match quality and more about the match variety on a card like this. I don't need Jade Cargill to go out there and have a 5-star classic.
I'm not asking her to do that.
I know. I understand. The thing is, it finally seemed like Tony Khan realized if you're going to have 14 matches on the card, some of them are going to have to get cut short, and that was fine with me.
Okay, then
it's not like, were you looking forward to this match anyway?
No, I wasn't.
Nobody was looking forward to this match.
The bill was horrible, but then have this.
So that's fine.
Then have this on a Dynamite or a Rampage or something. I get it.
He takes a lot of heat for not putting enough thought into the women's division. I'm sure he
this
thought
is
that
the reason why.
I'm sure that he thought he needed 2 women's matches on the card.
Look, if you're going to have 2 women's matches on the card, have 2 quality matches, women on the card. I mean, this was not good. Period.
Okay.
We had FTR and Wardlow versus Jay Lethal and Motor City Machine Guns, which was way better on paper, in my opinion, than it was here. It wasn't particularly bad or anything. It just, the crowd was kind of dead. I was kind of feeling along with the crowd. It was, it didn't feel particularly special. It was just more like a fun TV match or whatever. It was well wrestled. I can't say anything negative about it, except it just didn't do a lot for me. I did love, though, it popped me huge whenever Dax's daughter came out and took Sanjay Dutt's pencil and broke it in half. That popped me hard. It was hilarious.
As the guy that doesn't have kids or anything like that, that was WWE to me. This match was fine. It felt like a Rampage match or a Dynamite match. It didn't. A lot of this, and I guess let me start to kind of preface this by saying that some of this isn't Tony Khan's fault. You got guys hurt for an extended period of time. You got to make, course changes, the whole shebang. Other things is his fault. This is one of those things that you could avoid. This match, just in particular, you could avoid it if you really wanted to. For whatever reason, he wanted to put it on the card. That's on Tony Khan. Now, at that point, the match itself in a capsule
100%.
was good. For me, the only thing that kind of threw me off is a guy that watches Impact, and I'm seeing Motor City Machine Guns and Impact as the heel or as the baby faces. Now they're coming over as the heels. I've never seen Motor City Machine Guns as heels ever. So for that off the jump was kind of weird to begin with. If you want to connect the dots, that's fine, but make the dots connect and make sense. This was just more like an exhibition match. And that's fine. You could do that on Dynamite. There's no problem with that. You don't have to have 15 matches on an AEW card at all times.
Yeah,
This is one of those times where this is one of those matches where you could have just done this on Dynamite or on Rampage and moved along.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just chalk it up to him probably feeling like FTR and Wardlow had to be on the show. So this was his way to get them on the show.
And that's
which
totally
is
fair.
His prerogative, and
it doesn't make sense.
I mean, if it would have led off the show, the crowd would have been completely hot for it, obviously. But the thing is, you can't. Sorry, Mom, I'll talk to you later. No. Send the voicemail.
Oh, my God.
She's going to be like, how'd the baby do at daycare today? It's like, Mom, she did fine.
Greater than Mom.
I've seen her 5 out of the last 6 days. It's like, enough. Anyway.
Yeah, you could have taken this match and the Jade Athena match, taken them out, and given time to the next match, which is Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs. I think that's really the only reason that this match suffered was it was super fast. It was mostly Hobbs being dominant, and then all of a sudden, spinebuster pin. It just it happened super quickly. I expected this to tell a little bit more of a story because of the length of time that these guys were a team, and this really surprised me. And maybe we'll get a rematch. We'll get a longer story. Something. But I was kind of taken aback at this.
Yeah, I don't think we're done with this feud. I think that the match length was a casualty of the length of the card. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not reading too much into it by Hobbs going over dominant because Ricky Starks gets as much TV time as he does, as much promo time as he does. I just think it was just too long of a card. That's all.
I agree with that, and the fucked up part about it is I went out to go smoke a cigarette just before the match because I was like, okay, this is one of the the matches that's going to run a little bit. I got a chance to go out, smoke a cigarette, and come back, get into this match. Cigarettes for me take like 10 minutes. That's by the time I came back in the door, the match was over.
You smoked those 100s though.
I said for me.
Yeah,
okay?
no, you don't have to smoke 100s though.
Shit, if you play Sega and all that other shit like I used to, yeah, that's what you had to do.
You're blaming this on Sega?
Oh yeah, sometimes I got to sit down and just
like pre-Genesis, like Altered Beast shit.
No, like
You
when
fucking old man.
No, when you play Madden, you just can't smoke. And,
If you play Pong and
and Space Invaders, you got to put the cigarette down.
if you play Galaga like I did.
Missile Command, you can't do that shit with one hand. You
What's
gotta
the other
do
one?
two.
Pitfall 2 or something?
Okay, hey, the original Pitfall was no joke.
Original Pitfall he's talking about.
Dude, I played a lot of Pitfall back in the day.
God
I'm old
damn,
enough to have played a bunch
he's
of Pitfall.
12 years younger than you.
Thank you. Get my back, goddammit.
Oh, man. So, all right, moving on. Then this is where things picked up. This was one of the best matches of the night. We had Swerve in Our Glory versus The Acclaimed. I can't remember the specifics of the match right now, or not the match, the rap right now, but I do remember this being one of Max Caster's better entrance raps. And, oh my God, this match, I picked The Acclaimed to win, and I'm pretty sure the entire all-out arena picked The Acclaimed to win. These guys were so over, and everybody was so into this match. And Swerve and Jesus Christ,
Yeah, the other guy.
Keith Lee were. I kept, because of the stupid name, I kept thinking Glory, and I'm like, what is it, Tim Glory?
Well, what's his name? Something Glory.
Paul Roma?
Yeah. It's just the stupidest name in existence. But I mean, just a fantastic tag team match. They told a phenomenal story, teased the breakup even more, because I mean, Swerve in Our Glory is destined for a breakup. This has been a thing for a long time, but it's a slow build, and Swerve almost cost them the titles by kicking Keith Lee. Everybody wanted to win, even to the point where in that scrum, I don't know if you guys just watched the CM Punk stuff, but there were other people being interviewed, and one of them was Swerve and Keith Lee, and one of the reporters or whatever, not a very good reporter, asked the tag team champions if they thought that Tony Khan should have called an audible tonight, which is an amazingly stupid question to ask a performer who has won their match.
God damn.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And
I mean, we were talking about it, but damn, I wouldn't have asked that question.
That's like in the Super Bowl build-up when that guy asked Doug Williams, how long have you been a black quarterback?
Oh, my life.
But what do you guys think of the match? I loved it. I thought they should have changed the titles, but calling an audible is a weird thing to do. I mean, you can say it. It sounds fun. I don't know how, I don't know how you feel as a booker, like, just going by one crowd's reaction, but that crowd was very much into them winning these titles, and we have a rematch coming up in a couple weeks.
First of all, I was one of my favorite things in wrestling is when something gets over completely organically, like Rusev Day or Damian Mizdow, shit like that. And the Acclaimed kind of seemed like a middling tag team that people started to like, and then they started to like more, and then they just exploded on Sunday night. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but I definitely didn't think adding Billy Gunn to the act was the right move. I didn't think it was the wrong move, but I didn't think it was going to get them over. I'm amazed at how much Scissor Me Daddy is over. I was amazed at that Chicago crowd's reaction, especially when you have a couple indie darlings like Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland in the match with them. I thought the match was really, really fucking good. That crowd would have exploded if the Acclaimed would have gone over. And yet, I think that the way they followed it up with on Wednesday night, which we'll get to, I think that it was the right move because they basically did a double turn. The Acclaimed were heels. They've been creeping towards babyface, but they are heels now. Or they were heels at the time. Now they're babyfaces. Certainly solidified after Sunday and Wednesday. And Swerve and Keith Lee are definitely heels now, especially after Swerve interrupted Max Caster's rap the other night, which was one of the most. It was a brilliant booking decision because the crowd was ready for that rap.
Yes,
and then to have Swerve break it up, it was
Before
brilliant.
it really got going good.
He didn't even start. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
He just said, "Listen, listen, listen." Then Swerve Strickland was like, "Listen."
Shut the fuck up.
Love the match.
I love the match. It's one of my top 5. I didn't put a list on, top 5 matches of the weekend, but this was really good.
It's on my top 5 also.
When I was at Tinder's apartment and he had a couple of his friends over that, wrestled with him at wrestling at the Grandel. I think they done some Gory Pro as well. They were asking for the Audible to flip the titles. So, I mean, I'm not saying that, they're right, but I mean, at least it makes me feel like I wasn't the only one thinking crazy, like, oh man, this is a chance to, really, establish, stamp the Acclaim as big time baby faces on the tag team division side. How you do it, I guess there's the ultimate problem because everybody's on this script, and then if you got to deviate from that script, that's going to be a problem. If there was a time to do it, I think that was the time to do it. It had got the crowd, man. The pop for that, I would have been amazing to see. I still don't get what Billy Gunn and the Acclaim have to do with anything, but people love it. So by all means, knock yourself out.
Get over any way you can get over. That's all that's all that matters.
It takes Billy Gunn to get the Acclaimed over, which I thought they were over to begin with. More so to that point, I'll just say this. If they win at Wrestling Grand Slam, this feels like the makeup call to me in basketball.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then we had the 4-way with the AEW Women's title, or interim title, rather. But
yeah, we need to talk about that.
Match initially suffered, I think, because you had such a great match and the crowd was just so into the previous match. But these women really worked their ass off to get the crowd back, and they did in spots, but it was kind of an uphill battle the entire time. So a lot of kind of up and down. And 4-ways could be tough as well. It seemed like the crowd was really behind Hater. He has an organic movement, and we got kind of a payoff to begin the Britt Baker Jamie Hayter feud that we knew was coming for months and months and months, where Britt cost her the title by pulling the referee out of the ring. So, but Toni Storm won. I think most of us called that just because she was the one that was originally in the match to begin with.
All of us did.
Yeah. But it was okay. But I do think the right person won.
I'll just say this, and I shouldn't say we, but I had this debate on Twitter about interim champions and, the good and the bad of it. This is the part where I think it's bad because now Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa were obviously scheduled to have the title match at All Out. Thunder Rosa had to back out for whatever reason. I'll let you fill in the blank from that point. So when Toni Storm wins, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think Toni Storm should be a champion at some point. I liked her to be the champion the same way I wanted Jon Moxley to be the men's champion, but another story for another time. My biggest problem with this is now we know that Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa are going to meet at a later point. If you want to have the interim champion, that's fine. But then the interim champion needs to be at some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not casualty, but some sort of, peril or whatever. I shouldn't think that Toni Storm...
She needs to be in danger.
Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa shouldn't be a fait accompli. There should be, dare I say, somebody that beats Toni Storm, and then that person, I'll just throw Serena Deeb out there.
You can say fait accompli, but you can't come up with in peril?
Look, man, fuck you. if Serena Deeb was the person, and I'm just throwing her out there because it's the first person that came to my mind. If Serena Deeb beat Toni Storm, and then you have a Serena Deeb Thunder Rosa match, okay, now we're talking. This is what it means to be an interim champion, because the interim champion could lose at any point. For Tony Khan, it's like, okay, Thunder Rosa, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, whomever, go do your thing, get yourself healthy, and then when you come back, we'll be having this match again. That's not a good way to book, and it bit him in the ass.
That's what it's been like just one time. I mean, we had an interim title whenever it was Cody Rhodes, but he was out with COVID. It was like a week. And then that's what it was with Moxley. But, I mean, that's your world title. I don't really see you bouncing that around. I think the interim champion could absolutely lose the interim championship.
I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying the way Tony Khan books it, they won't. Until
he's done it just one time. I don't know. I think it's just, I don't think there's enough
John
data
Moxley
there
was
to really...
the interim champion. He ran the
Yeah,
table.
you can make John Moxley didn't lose a clean pin until Sunday night in 3 years.
And then who did he lose it to?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of called it.
To CM Punk. That's my point. If John Moxley would have lost to Miro on the way to CM Punk, now you have something that at least is now interesting. The interim champion can still lose because the belt's on the line, and you still have to face CM Punk at the end. If you can't do Moxley and Punk right now, that's okay. But you still have to be able to progress other people's storylines moving forward. That's why Malachi Black is like, fuck you. That's why Miro is like, you know what? I'm not being utilized as much. There are people that are waiting in line, and you're sitting here like, okay, sorry, CM Punk, you just broke your foot because you jumped into the fucking crowd. Okay, we'll hold the title for you, and then let John Moxley run this shit the way dude, don't even get me started. John Moxley is
Sounds
getting
like you're already
fucked.
started.
John Moxley is getting fucked in this. He should be on vacation right now, and you jokers can't get along for 5 fucking minutes, so now he has to come back on Wednesday to come back, have a State of the Union address, handle this shit. Hey, everybody, it's John Moxley.
We'll get to that.
Look.
I don't think that having John Moxley carry that interim title without losing a match is a mistake. Like, you're using John Moxley as an example. Like, he is an outlier. He might be the best at professional wrestling right now.
Nobody's disagreeing with that, Zach. I'm just saying.
He's the only one that's carried an interim title, and you're saying
I'm
Tony
just
Khan
saying that we knew.
One time.
No, it's not just one time. It's not just one time. We've done this at least 2 or 3 different times, and now Tony Storm's going to be the 4th. I will put bottom dollar to anything. I'll bet you $100 right now. Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa are going to go against each other for the AEW Women's Championship.
I should have taken the piss before you start going on this rant. Like, I just don't like. I did not think we were going to spend this much time talking about Tony Storm.
I'm not talking about Tony Storm. I'm talking about the Interim Championship.
We have so much stuff to get to. I know I'm the quarterback, and I know that I should stop you at some point and say that this is just
absolute fucking bullshit.
But I didn't, because I wanted to let you hear it out, and then I kind of leaned back and I couldn't reach the thing, so I just didn't stop you. Anyway, we all predicted it right. Jason, you almost had a perfect night in predictions. You should be riding high off this shit.
I'm sorry.
You should be riding high
I'm
as
sorry.
fuck
There's
up
certain
this
things
shit.
that
Not your kind of high, but, just riding high off it.
Speaking of which.
What was next?
I just don't feel strongly about it. I just don't think it's a big deal. I was playing more devil's advocate and arguing. I don't really feel strongly about the interim championship. I don't. It's just a different way of doing it. Is all in my mind. It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't bother me in the least.
Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy. This one was polarizing. So let's talk some polarizing stuff. So Christian Cage shoot hurt. I think legitimately the same injury that Punk has, so he's going to be out for just as long, like 8 months. We had Jungle Boy come out, and Luchasaurus did the triple turn back to a heel. I know that, you could argue, like Jason said, he didn't think he ever turned, which was good insight, but the fans, were in storyline. He was a good guy. So
we did talk a couple weeks ago about how he never changed out of the black uniform. We did talk about that.
It was almost like a total sign, like a big neon sign pointing at heel.
Right.
But I mean, Christian Cage went over very quickly after Luchasaurus chokeslammed Jungle Boy onto this like metal grate in Jungle Boy's back. Oh my god! It was like
grill marks on the steak.
Rough, yeah. It was so bad.
It looked like after his dad banged Brenda Walsh.
Wow. Oh my god.
That's for all you 80s, 90s kids.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I've ever told this before. I feel like I have, but it's one of my favorite self-deprecating things. That whenever I was in like 5th grade, I was like, just like big 90210 fan, like everybody else in the world, and I had like a folder for school, and it just had. I didn't realize that it was like supposed to be for either like girls or like gay guys, but it just had all like the dudes from 90210, and it said all the hot guys. But I just liked the show.
I had a Jenny Garth one, but I was a little older than you, so I was just horny as fuck, just jerking off like 5 times a day.
And I was like, oh my god! I was like, this is the gayest thing that I own, which is fine. But I was just
socks on the side of my bed. Fucking, you can throw like frisbees. Fucking Target bra ads hidden in my baseball cards.
Oh my god! I thought I was bad.
Oh man. Tori Spelling's brother owns a crystal shop like in my neighborhood where it just like sells like rocks and crystals like 4 hours a week or something. It's hilarious.
This is the content that people want. They don't want to hear about interim championships. I want to hear about Tori Spelling's brother having a crystal shop. So he sells like probably like essential oils and shit too.
Yeah, and the shop it's in a high dollar neighborhood with like high dollar real estate shop front, and I was like, who has the money to own this store that's open for 4 hours a week? That
Aaron Spelling's son.
It's Aaron Spelling's son. Yeah, right. I was like, well, this is
that makes all the sense in the world. I show up to work. Why? Because I can.
Yeah. So,
it's my passion.
Motherfuckers like me. I'm like, man, I'm trying to pay the bills, man. I got an overhead to pay for, man. The couch can't pay the bills. I got the food on the table. This motherfucker's like, it's my passion. I'm sorry, too big. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. But I could see people questioning why Christian Cage won this if he's just going to go away for 8 months, because you could just as easily have had him lose it that quickly and then come back and do something dastardly if you wanted to keep the feud back up, if you wanted to keep the feud going, if he's going to be gone for a while. So that was, a lot of people said questionable booking. I think it's fine to not put the titles on the Acclaimed, even though the crowd was hot. I think it's fine to try something creative with the ladder match. I don't think this was like terribly booked show, but this one was a little questionable as far as like just logic and traditional pro wrestling goes, in my opinion.
No, as far as I'm concerned, Christian should have lost this match. And then as fast as Christian won it on Sunday, as far as I'm concerned, as fast as he should have lost it. Jungle Boy's submission move is a part of that arm getting jammed up. I'm not asking for him to be Cody Rhodes at this point, okay? But I mean, damn, let's have a little logic to it. Make it make sense. You got a wounded Christian coming out. I've been saying for the last couple weeks that Luchasaurus hadn't turned. He obviously didn't, and now you have this result. If it was a longer match, if Luchasaurus did what he did, and then Christian came in and they had like a little match, and then Christian won, I'd probably have a little less beef about this match. But to me, this was like a Mike Tyson microwave match. You looked up, popcorn's done, and now you're ready to eat. I'm like, damn, I ain't even sat down for this motherfucker good, and it's already over. That's my only problem with it.
Yeah, I feel you. Then we had Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho, which I actually remember on the Friends of BFR page right before the Christian Jungle Boy match. I was like, all right, it's just bangers from here on out, guys.
I saw you say that on Facebook. I'm like, please, God, because that's the only way we saving this motherfucking paper.
Yeah. And then we had like the Christian Cage squash. And then we had this match, which was a good, like, technical professional wrestling match, but it seemed like they were trying to have like a really kind of classic match, and it just never kind of got there. It never kind of reached the highest highs that it could. And I watched the Chris Jericho media scrum, and he started off by saying that they just went out there and they called it in the ring, and he's like, Bryan Danielson is one of the only guys that you can do that with anymore. He's like, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's like, so we just went out there and called spots. Like, so it was just kind of a different kind of match, different pace. It was not the best match that they could have had. It was still a really good professional wrestling match, but I thought that they could have done a lot better.
Yeah, it never really felt like it got out of second gear for me. I'm glad that they're getting a rematch next week on Dynamite, because I feel like they know that they could have done better. And going out there and calling in the ring, that's certainly their prerogative.
It's two professionals. They should be able to do it and get away with it.
Yes. Yeah, at a house show maybe, but maybe just put a little bit of thought into it beforehand. I don't know. I'm hard pressed to criticize either guy. I expected more out of this match, and this match let me down. As
so
a
Jason
fan,
picked Jericho to win?
He did.
Because that surprised me.
It's Jason. Jason was perfect. I mean, there's no denying it, but he was perfect except for that chip match.
I'll say this. I just expected Daniel Garcia to be at ringside at a later point. Not saying that he was going to get
right. That's why you picked him,
Jericho,
because you picked
I thought
Garcia was going
to come out and
stay
ultimately
heel.
turn on Daniel Bryan, and that would help Jericho win.
Doesn't matter why you're right. It just matters that you're right.
I thought that just not having him out there just kind of took a. And it wasn't like it was a lot of the match, but to me, that's why we're having this match. It's the fight for Daniel Garcia. And the fact that he wasn't out there at all, even after the fact, it kind of threw me a little bit. The match was good, not great.
Yeah. Then we had Out of Black versus Sting, Darby Allin, and Miro. And, I mean, this thing was fun. Definitely kind of good spot on the card, too, because any Sting match anymore is just an absolute party match. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Gives you a breather, gives you time to have fun before something more serious, which little did we know how goddamn deathly serious the night was going to get. But it was good. And, Sting continues his streak. And I think the big news point of the night here, though, is that House of Black, specifically Malachi Black, kind of did a little bit of a curtain call at the end. Waved to the crowd, kissed him goodbye. It looks like he's out the door for one reason or another. Not a lot of news, which tends to kind of lean towards personal stuff. So, granted a quote-unquote conditional release, which essentially means like, yeah, you can have your time off or your release or whatever, but you're not going to go to another promotion.
6-month non-compete clause with basically he can't go sign with WWE for 6 months.
Oh, that's the condition?
That was the condition.
I didn't see that.
Yep.
Who reported that?
I think that Sean Ross Sapp reported that today, I want to say.
I was at work, so I didn't have a chance to sit on Wrestling Twitter the way
I heard it. I heard it on a podcast. I can't remember who they quoted, but it was a podcast that I trust.
I'll say this.
Yeah, there's like 3 dudes that I trust. It's like Observer, like Meltzer and Alvarez, Sean Ross Sapp, and then like Wade Keller.
Yeah,
there's a couple other guys. Mike Johnson. There's like 5. You can count them on one hand.
Somebody made fun of Sean Ross Sapp this week for not being a journalist. He's like, yeah, I'm not a journalist. I'm a rumors and news guy. I sell wiener pills on my podcast. He's like, yeah. I never claimed to be a journalist.
At all.
Completely self-aware.
Yeah.
And Bischoff retweeted it saying he's like, best tweet ever.
No, it's just the truth. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. I'll just say this. Malachi Black, I won't call him a disappointment. I'll say I'm going to go under the assumption that it's bigger than what we see on screen. Okay? And that's acceptable at this point. I'd rather him go away for 6 months and then come back refreshed, energized. And if he signs with WWE, so be it. If he comes back to AEW, so be it. But for me, I don't want him to be miserable at work. I want to see the best Alistair / Malachi Black I can possibly see. Tommy Gann, whatever name he wants to go with. And if that means he got to go away for 6 months, that's fine. The crazy part about this is a month ago, we were over here like, WWE might be in a little trouble. AEW is good. And now, a month later, it's almost, not saying AEW is in trouble, but their shit is in a little bit of a turmoil, and WWE seems to be on point again.
This week, if this week is to prove us anything, I think a year from now we'll look back at this time and be like, well, this is when business picked up. This is when it really got fun, because
Tony Khan's talking about he ain't going to put up with this bullshit no more.
Well,
like, man, you better sit your ass down.
I forget who it says. I forget who said it. It might have been, I think it's David Fincher. It's some director where he's like, nothing brings out more creativity than guidelines, or than like rules you have to play by, or than restrictions. It's like, then when you get restrictions, when you don't get every guy that you want, then all of a sudden you have to start actually being creative. When things are fucked up, then that's when you have to start getting creative.
And kudos to Tony Khan. Okay, he's lost a lot of guys that I'm sure he had plans for the 2022 season. But
yeah, I actually listened to an interview with him on Saturday. He did almost 2 hours with Meltzer, and he talked a lot about how thrilled he was to have a full roster, or an almost full roster. Like,
he
after All Out, we'll have, and then immediately loses 4 of his biggest stars.
What was next?
The main event, which I think, all my comments about CM Punk aside, like, as a person, this was probably the match of the night for me. This thing was so much heat. It's not just because of the main event aspect of it. These guys are 2 absolute professionals. Punk did a great job, even though he probably felt like shit. He was talking about his foot hurting. He probably couldn't do much cardio. But, I mean, he pulled it off in a high-pressure main event situation. And I also just love Jon Moxley. I think he's the absolute greatest going right now. And, this was it piqued my interest. I was almost 5 hours deep into this thing, 4.5 hours deep, and I was like hyped for this main event. And, definitely bummed whenever Punk won, because, like we were saying, it was expected, because, he was never supposed to actually lose. He should have been the champion to begin with. He probably wouldn't have been facing Jon Moxley. Champion.
Shocker.
It's not the same thing that you were saying, though, at all. Like,
Moxley and Punk end up meeting up for the title. I'm just saying.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about. Let's just talk about the fucking match. Like, what are you guys even talking about?
I don't really. Go ahead.
I'm saying Jason got into it with me a couple weeks ago about the upset thing. Now he's getting into it with you about the interim thing.
Oh no, this
if you meet
assholes,
if you meet an asshole in the morning, you met an asshole.
I'm an asshole, and I'll be the first to admit it.
You son of a bitch.
You know this.
Is he eating a cupcake right now?
He is. He's eating a cupcake. He's eating a blueberry cupcake. Just
licking my fingers while I'm talking shit.
Just gnawing on it. I'm old, I'm tired, I'm broken, and I'm sick of working with children.
These jokers came mad as a goddamn target.
I like when Zach said that CM Punk couldn't manage Target either. It's like, yeah, he'd get too mad at the lady trying to bring back all the stuff.
What do you mean it doesn't work? I'm clicking it right now.
He'd be like, oh, you're returning this dress because it doesn't fit? How am I supposed to return this dress to an empty-headed motherfucking bitch like you?
Right. If you wouldn't be fat, you would fit in this dress. Now we have a problem. That's CM Punk to a fucking core. I'll say this.
Shit was on clearance.
You should be happy you got this shit. I was actually
You
waiting
share
for
a checking account with your mother?
I was I was waiting for MJF to come out, and I shouldn't say that. I was waiting for MJF to come out and cash in, and that's how I thought the pay-per-view was going to end.
I don't think that's the way the chip works, though.
Is it not like Money in the Bank?
I think you have to call a match. I think you have to say, I want to have a match with you.
Yeah, I don't think it's like Money in the Bank, but I'm not clear on it.
Okay, and if that's the case, that's completely fair.
Well, people have had it before, and that's never happened.
Well, people...
Yeah, it hasn't worked like that.
We just saw something that never happened this year where Stokely came out and just hijacked the shit and gave it to MJF. What's to say that you can't do this?
You ever heard of James Ellsworth?
Yes, I was there,
he
motherfucker.
Did pull an Ellsworth.
I was there,
you
motherfucker.
were there live?
Yeah. Yes, I was totally there. We did the podcast on it. Yes, this is a true story. We did the podcast on it. I was there that week. And then when Carmelo won it again, we talked about it afterwards.
Man, back whenever we didn't have to worry about talking about CM Punk or any titles, we just laughed about AJ Styles trying to put James Ellsworth in a chin lock.
That is really funny. Back in the old
days. What do you
days.
think of the main event, though?
I loved it. Totally into it. Thought it fucking ruled. It was 24 minutes. Perfect time. I found myself rooting for Moxley.
Of course.
Very, 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 very hard. And like I said, I'm not one of these people that hated CM Punk back in the day. We were all excited to see CM Punk in AEW. It just kind of went the worst way possible. Like, of all the timelines that could have happened, this was the
multi-universe of
this
wrestling.
This was the one that everybody was fearing, and it's actually what happened. It's pretty amazing.
That's crazy, dude. I would have never thought.
I love the match, though. I did.
I'll say this, and we can move on if we need to, but this is just my final thought on just AEW All Out. I would have never thought that we would have gotten to the point where CM Punk was exhausting. I don't want to see him anymore. But now we've gotten to that point where I'm just like, I think we can go without CM Punk. It's not like he's the end-all, the be-all. Zach said it best. He waited 3 years before he came back and was like, okay, you guys are good. You got a contract? Okay, now I'm going to jump in. It feels almost to the point where it's disingenuous for the fact that he's coming in now after AEW has been established, when he could have came in on the ground floor.
But everybody chanted CM Punk for all those years. All those years he was being chanted.
And nowhere to be found.
That was because everybody wanted him back because there was not the alternative that ended up being AEW. And then AEW came along, and all of a sudden CM Punk was completely dispensable. And we didn't find that out until last night.
I would say
this whole time we should have just been chanting Karl Marx.
We should have been
Tony Khan.
No, we should have just been chanting MJF, because MJF is one of the guys that's the one. I won't even call him the biggest loser, quote unquote, but him coming back.
He was the biggest loser.
Him coming back, and then the ending of All Out was so good where I was like, okay, I'm not that mad. I'm just disappointed. Okay?
That's karma.
It kind of is. It kind of is, to the point where now when MJF came out on Wednesday night as the babyface, I was like, man, this kind of works for like 30 seconds. I don't want him to be a babyface too long, but for right now, for what has all happened, yes. Him, John Moxley had the two best promos of Wednesday night.
Okay, so let's move on to Wednesday night. And
yeah, we can segue. And that's a great segue, because those two opening the show was phenomenal without getting into the minutia of their like actual promo stuff. MJF playing just and by me playing the baby face so good. Moxley comes out not playing. Like, he's not playing anything. Like, he didn't even look like he was playing the John Moxley character. He was annoyed to have to be there.
I was marking out for Moxley's face, the face that he was making in MJF. I was marking out. I was like, this is so fucking good, man.
I will fuck you
It
up.
was perfect. It was just absolute truth. And John Moxley usually just says the truth in character. And I think here he was just saying the truth as like Jonathan Good.
Well, the look on his face was like slightly annoyed, but also like kind of bemused. He was like, nah, he's like, I'm not scared of you at all. He's like, I will fuck you up. It was perfect. And then Moxley cut
the ultimate babyface promo.
The ultimate babyface promo, especially in the wake of what had transpired on Sunday night, which was...
It's what we all needed.
One of the first things he said was, I am embarrassed. And then he talked about how there were things that happened in the business that should have been left to the last generation, which I thought was a fucking super money line. Because it is talking about that backstage machismo type bullshit. At least that's what it seemed like to me.
That's what I took away from it.
I'm not backstage, but that's what it seemed like to me. And it was the ultimate babyface promo, and they did it perfectly. They did Tony Khan in pre-tape. Tony Khan refuses
Caught a little booze.
But he is not an on-screen character, and I'm very happy that he refuses.
He needs to be the owner and come out as the owner, and this is what we're going to do.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that would be in his position, like Billy Corgan with NWA, where you're in charge. Okay, now you're the Vince McMahon.
I'm going to change the match to
Tony Khan
versus
I feel like Tony Khan is the owner of the company. I thought that what he did, even though he's not very good at reading cue cards, I thought that what he did was come out and be like, okay, I'm still in charge, but I'm not an on-screen presence on this company. So this is all I'm going to do, and then I'm out of here. And because there's no on-screen authority figure,
right,
that's kind of what needs to happen in a situation as strange as this. Do I think he's a pussy for not bringing up CM Punk's name? No, not at all. I don't think that he should have stripped the trios titles.
You gotta keep it. You gotta keep it clean.
Well,
no,
whatever.
They're
Personally, I would have
They're
done it.
all involved.
Anyway,
at a certain point,
I think there should have been an
suspension.
interim trios title until the investigation was complete.
He's heating up. He's heating up.
I'm getting ready to die here.
I don't think that they should have stripped him though either. They could have like later decided to strip him.
So we're
it just
stripping
seems like-
Punk, and not the
because he's hurt for 8 months.
Also, what Punk did was on screen. What Punk did was on was in front of a table that said AEW on the front and said AEW on the back.
I
what
agree
he
with that.
did was
I'm not
in kayfabe.
Kayfabe style. I already said he gets
Didn't say
50%. I know, but I just said it for you. He gets 50% of the blame, but it's not like the elite doesn't get some of this. Some of this falls on them.
I don't know. They're not hurt. They can be suspended. You don't have
They
to have
didn't
it.
have to go to CM Punk's locker room. They didn't
He
have to
invited
confront
them
him
there at the scrum. He invited them there.
Okay, see,
He
Donald
said,
Trump.
come to my locker room.
Well, and they also did bring the head of legal, which is like the number 2 in the company. Like you don't bring your HR head of legal to go have a fist fight with somebody.
And nobody disagrees that CM Punk threw the first punch. Everybody agrees that happened. I'll be right back.
If I got, you ever like get in a fight in school and then like you get suspended like just because like somebody hit you, and like you're just like walking in the hall and somebody hits you, like, oh, you're both suspended because they have a zero tolerance for fighting, and it's like, dude, this guy just like hit me and I swung back, like, you're not like doing anything. That's kind of what it feels like a little bit. I totally understand the parody thing, like wanting to even at least have the semblance of being fair, even if you do kind of lean one way. I get it. That was a little bit surprising. What did not surprise me was that nothing was said about it. I saw a lot of people kind of tuning in, like really upset that they didn't address it more. And I was like, what do you think? That they're going to do some like expose and he's going to like, they're going to just turn this into an angle or start shooting on it? And
Look,
I didn't expect that at all. What I expected exactly what we got, which is just some kind of clarification on the title situation so that you can move forward and figure the rest of the actual real stuff out in the meantime.
no problem with the the tournament for the World Championship. You got a bunch of guys in there. Maybe you could have a little beef with Sammy and Dari, but that's neither here nor there. I don't have necessarily a huge problem with that. No problem with the Trios Championship being awarded on the curtain jerk on Wednesday night. Get it done and being taken care of. For me,
Pop the crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
Make them happy.
Yeah, and it was a good match. I think the right team went over, question mark. Still think breast fans are going to win the Trios Trials at some point. But for me, like I said earlier, if you guys are going to be fucking adults, then somebody's got to act like a fucking adult. Nobody was acting like an adult at any point. Even the owner, Tony Khan, was coked the fuck out more times than not. And he was sitting there letting that shit roll. I mean, you can't have Wild West shit and then come back and then try to be like, okay, what the fuck's going on?
Death Triangle is your new Trios champ. Makes sense, right? Have you guys already talked about that?
Just kind of finishing up.
Okay.
Yeah, just mentioned it. I do think the Tony Khan cocaine thing is funny as a meme. I don't think he's actually on cocaine.
I don't think he is either. No, I think he's like hyperactive.
I think he's borderline autistic.
Yeah.
I think he has Asperger's syndrome, like 100%. But he's just very.
But he might be on an Adderall or at least an espresso, right? Like right before he walks out. I mean, his eyes are
just like, yeah.
Come on,
bug the fuck out.
Plus, Tony, if you're holding, hit me up.
Don't hide it, divide it.
Also, you're loaded, so I'm gonna hang out with you all the time.
No shit.
So we had
the
Brian.
The match was fun.
Oh yeah,
and to Jason's point about the, we can just mention it because that's what where Bill was going. The tournament looks great, and we had the first match of the tournament. So this whole show was just designed as like press the reset button, and we're gonna get back to the roots of what AEW is, which is super dope wrestling.
Yep.
And and so
I'm 100% here for it. I was very
thoughts on the main event.
Garcia Yuta. I think the right guy went over. I thought it was
especially
fun.
in the turmoil, what's going on. I think the right guy went over.
Yeah, I think the right guy went over because the people behind Daniel Garcia.
Sure.
I think they're going to put the belt on Danielson. That's why I think it's ultimately going to happen at the end of this tournament, is that Danielson's. Because, man, what if they would have, at every turn over the last year where they gave Punk a little push and put him in the belt, what if they would have done that with Danielson?
Right.
Wouldn't that have been way more fun?
I don't want to play money more. I don't want to play money more than quarterback. I mean, Punk's run could have been good if he didn't get hurt.
But when
twice.
you called yourself exhausted by Punk, it's like, I haven't thought about it in those terms, but that makes so much sense. It's like, God damn, man, whatever. Like, why can't you guys just do your fucking jobs?
That's what it's like to just be with a toxic person. It's exhausting, and that's the perfect definition for it. He's a toxic dude. Danielson,
I'm
by all
staring
accounts,
right at Jason while you say that.
Oh my god!
Call me Mandy Rose in this motherfucker.
But the match with Danielson and Page, I didn't expect Page to win.
No.
Because he has beaten Danielson twice already. Once in a 60-minute Broadway, and also he's a little too close to this thing. I think just for political purposes.
Yes, you can't. You can have him in the match, but you can't have him win matches, or dare I say, win the title.
It did go to show. They loaded this show up with Adam Page is a younger star. Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta main evented. They are younger stars.
Super young.
Yeah. He did not go to the
a big time Jungle Boy promo. Big time Jungle Boy promo. Super young dude.
You know what Vince would have done if he would have lost like 7 people off his roster?
He would have called Cena.
Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Brock, what are you doing?
The Jungle Boy promo was cool. I thought Yuta versus Daniel Garcia is cool. I didn't know that one of the rules of the Pure Championship though was that it's kind of like basketball where you have to dribble, but they have to shake each other's hands like
they didn't shake hands before the match.
Every 30 seconds. It felt like they just shook hands the entire time.
No, they didn't shake hands before the match. That's the only thing I was kind of like, okay, what the fuck? It's ROH, man.
You can also dock foreskins if you have them.
All right, we've been talking about nothing but nonstop AEW for an hour and a half. It's time to move on, guys. Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2.
Blame CM Punk for that shit.
I mean, if we spend any more time on that, it's just
Absolute fucking bullshit. Unprofessional bullshit.
So let's talk about Clash at the Castle, because Clash at the Castle, and there were 6 matches. There's only 2 I want to talk to for the because of time, because we've been going for a long time, and I want to go watch the 4th quarter of the Rams game.
I was waiting for that.
But so Judgment Day lose to Edge and Ray. We all did not have that. Dom ends up turning. He ends up on Judgment Day on Monday night. Real quick, Jason.
Thank you.
Thoughts on it?
Thank you. That's my thought.
Okay. Zach, thoughts on it?
Dom is a man now.
Because Ripley turned.
I wish
him
I
into
could
a
be
man.
a man.
It's funny that his name is Dom because he's a sub.
It is 100%. 100%.
I was completely wrong, and this was my lead pipe lock of the week last week, was Shayna Baszler would go over Liv Morgan, and I was the only one that didn't pick Liv Morgan, and I was wrong, guys. So
Got lead poisoning from that take.
Really good.
That was good.
Riddle versus Seth Rollins is exactly what you thought it would, but
I thought it would be a little better.
There's 2 matches coming, though. The women's match that started was clunky and lasted way too long. But I want to talk about these 2 matches. So let's start off with Gunther versus Sheamus. Zach, did you watch this match?
I watched the whole show live and loved it. I actually liked this show more than I liked All Out.
Yes, I agree. It was
not
awesome.
what I would have thought going into the weekend.
Well, there was no match on All Out except for maybe Kenny and Dark Order. Kenny and the Bucks versus Dark Order. That was as good as either of the top 2 matches on this card.
Yeah, there were the Sheamus and Gunther and Drew Roman were phenomenal. But Sheamus Gunther exceptional. I mean, that I would call that that's a 5-star match to me.
Me too. I totally agree. I don't know if it was the best match of the weekend, but I think that Jason was teasing that he thought that Gunther Sheamus was the best match of the weekend.
I think it was, without question. This is one of those times where you have the heel in Gunther, and in this case, Sheamus being the babyface over in Cardiff. I thought Cardiff was an amazing fucking crowd. I think it was obviously the best crowd of the weekend.
Fucking awesome.
Bailey was, trying to shush them up when.
And by the way, that shit started at noon on Saturday. You know how sweet that was for me?
Perfect. I was like,
damn, I was just sitting there, like, kind of brunch drunk, Like, I hadn't drank, but I just eaten a bunch of pancakes that I made, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I was like, I got to fold laundry. And I started fold laundry right when it starts. It was perfect.
I could do that and fold laundry, not a problem.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, it'd have been absolutely perfect.
They beat the shit out of each other, though.
Really and truly, and it was one of the few times, and Michael Cole even said it when I thought about it maybe a couple minutes beforehand. This is one of the few times where I see Sheamus actually catching that work versus giving that work.
And he caught it, too.
He did. The fact that Cardiff gave him the standing ovation after the fact, I thought was an absolutely, class act. For me, this was the match of the weekend. 2 guys banging each other out for about 15 or 20 minutes. The right guy went over. There was nothing wrong with it. Even that little bullshit beforehand when you had fucking Imperium come back, which is kiss chefs.
Oh, they're reunited.
Thank you.
Hopefully they're reunited for Survivor Series.
And then you can go on from that.
I think we're going to get – we'll talk about the main event and who showed up. But, hey, Zach, so Sheamus versus Gunther.
Yeah, absolutely great. We expected to be 2 meaty men slapping meat, but both of these guys are the anti-CM Punk because they can both dish it out and they can take it too. He can only dish it out.
He's heating up.
But
I knew you were going to say that.
Sheamus is also just like Ilya Dragunov. Gunther should just only search for like ginger oriented people to fight so that their chest just look like hamburger meat. By the time he's done with them, it just adds that much more. Like Bryan Danielson just like bursted blood vessels like all over immediately. But yeah, this thing ruled, and it started at 10 a.m. for me. Like I woke up and I posted that Seinfeld meme, and because I almost missed the beginning because it was 10 a.m. and the thing was done by 2.
Shit.
I still had a whole Saturday. I can do whatever I want after that.
This match was incredible, and how can we? Like, what is Gunther's batting average? How many times has Gunther hit a home run when he has a big match to be in? When it's Tyler Bate or when
Better
it's
than Ted Williams.
Right. No, he's batting 1,000. Those Dragunov matches, the Tyler Bate matches.
Even Joe Coffey I thought was really good.
Yes. And then he went against Sheamus, who I know a lot of people like us don't think a whole lot about Sheamus. We just know that Sheamus is there. He's an institution.
He's a good worker, and he hits stiff.
But it's not like
to me was the.
But we always joke about guys going to the G1. It's not like we ever were been like Sheamus going to the G1.
Right.
But actually, now I'm thinking about it. Sheamus
in the G1.
Going to the G1.
I say, let's buy this man a ticket.
But you could tell Sheamus was motivated. That was the most fun he's had in the ring in a long fucking time. There is no doubt you could tell that he was just on fire. Gunther was on fire. The crowd was hot as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is my favorite match of the weekend. In fact, it's not my favorite match of the card. My favorite match of the card was Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. That was another 5-star classic. It was a 30-minute match. Jason's shaking his head, so we know how he feels. Zach, how do you feel about it?
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe Daniel Garcia should have lost in his hometown, and they should have had Anderson Silva come out and sing Kumbaya in Buffalo.
You does that mean you didn't like it?
I know, I loved it. I just I hated the ending was like very cringe, but the match was so phenomenal.
Well, yeah, I thought the ending felt like something that happens after the cameras turn off.
It was a house show ending.
Yep.
Yeah, so why'd they show it?
I have no idea.
Like that's what sucked. It's like I didn't even watch it.
Tyson Fury.
I saw what they were starting to do, and I was like, nah.
No, I was like, what the fuck is this? Off. No, I had to see where this went. Tyson Fury coming in with Roman Reigns could possibly set up something with Roman Reigns and Tyson Fury, more so with Tyson Fury, I think, than anything else. I thought the match was really good. Solo Sikoa.
I was so behind Drew, man. I mean, were you guys behind? Like, did you want him to? Did you think he was going to win?
No,
did you want him to win?
I thought that he could have won.
I thought he could have won.
This might have been the audible I would have called.
No, the Acclaim and Swerve versus our
man,
that
place would have
erupted.
Oh
I
my
agree.
God. It would have been the pop of the century.
It
would have been a memory forever.
Forever.
They would have played that. They would have played that at the opening of like every WrestleMania for like the next 20 years. I
totally agree.
Listen, I respect him. So here's my question. So I was totally cool with the ending, even though I was rooting for Drew real hard. I was like, oh, now they got Solo Sikoa, so now they got another person in the bloodline. So I was completely cool with the ending. But would I have been cool with the ending
if Drew won? Yeah.
No. If Vince McMahon was still in charge. I mean, if Vince McMahon was still in charge, I'd be like, man, that fucking Vince ending, like he couldn't fucking give it to Drew. I would have been mad at Vince.
No,
and because it's the Triple H era, I'm like, well, Triple H probably has a plan.
I think it's still the Vince plan.
Is that wrong?
No, I still think it's the Vince plan. Even if Vince was in charge, I would have not had a problem with the finish of the match. Roman is the right person to win that match. Drew McIntyre is over. Whether you wanted him to win the title in front of fans or not is a totally different discussion.
Sometimes you just want that release, though, as a fan.
See the Acclaim versus Swerve versus our Glory.
Both of them.
Okay.
I'm thinking about both of them. Like the fans
Acclaim kind
wanted.
of needs that more than Drew McIntyre needs it.
It's just kind of mean. I don't know if I could do it.
I'm not saying I could do it.
Not saying I couldn't be a good German.
God bless Joey O'Farrell. He has to deal with these problems, and then we have to.
He's a good German.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
Just following orders.
For me, if Roman loses, it has to be one of three people: Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, or Braun Breaker. Anybody else is going to be questionable.
The Rock?
Questionable.
I don't think Drew would have been questionable.
I don't think it would have been either.
The only reason that we're saying that he should have won is the fact that the crowd was so raucously behind him.
He was a great champion.
He was.
He's been
but it's not his time, though.
Also, like, Undertaker lost his streak to Brock Lesnar, right?
Yes.
So, wasn't Brock Lesnar, he was made before that, but, like, he is still unkillable, right? I mean,
you had to put, like, a ring and, a bunch of shit on top of him, but yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. I thought that this match was incredible. I loved the WWE style, like, drama of it. Is Austin Theory coming down, trying to cash in.
We never even talked about Austin Theory leading up to this match. Never even talked about
Tyson Fury. Listen, when you were watching it, it was very exciting. It was like, wow, what's going on?
He came down, and I was like, motherfucker. I didn't even talk about his ass.
I will say, though, that if Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE, I'd be like, man, that match fucking ruled, until Vince just vinced it up. He just had to overbook it. I'm calling myself out.
Okay.
I'm just saying that now that Triple H is in charge, I'm like, you know what? Let's see how it goes. Zach,
think we still could win that way.
Zach tried to agree with me earlier.
Let him agree with you now.
I'd have probably done the same shit. Yeah. I probably would have the same reaction. I don't necessarily think of it as giving Triple H a pass except just I think of it more as just accepting that they're just in on this Roman thing, and he's going to have it until WrestleMania at least.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Joe, you owe me $20.
Well, it's still got to happen.
As long as Joe owes me $20, that's all I'm worried about.
And now let's talk about Worlds Collide.
Please.
The spot of the week was the Carmelo Hayes Ricochet double cross body block in the middle of the ring, which is
We've
one of the.
We've seen it so many times, but
you've
not like
seen
this.
that,
where both guys are going for the body block and it's like in the middle or whatever. Yeah, we've seen it. I know we've seen it.
Not in WWE.
Come on, we've seen it at least once or twice.
No, we.
Yes,
okay.
we have.
Anyway, it was an unbelievable spot. It's a spot that can get fucked up so many different ways, and man, and Ricochet jumps later than Carmelo, but he jumps faster, and they still meet in the middle. Man, Ricochet is something else. Anyway, Carmelo Hayes versus Ricochet. Carmelo Hayes goes over.
Right guy
this
wins over.
Feud doesn't look like it's done because Ricochet beat Trick Williams on NXT on Tuesday night, but. Wasn't my match of the weekend. Crazy great match though, right?
No, it was. It's one of the reasons why I even wanted to watch Worlds Collide, because you had two guys that usually wouldn't be matched up against each other. Now in this match, with stakes on the line, with the North American Championship on the line, I love where Carmelo Hayes is hanging up the jerseys of the guys that he beat on the way up to this point. So now, even with somebody like me that, watched a little bit of Carmelo Hayes, but then went away and then came back, now I'm looking at these jerseys like, oh, he beat this person, he beat this person. So now you can see why he's this big of a deal as the North American champion.
Zach, did you watch this match?
I forgot to watch the show. There was just so much going on. I'm going to go back and watch it, but I just forgot.
I recommend that you watch the match and wait for the double crossbody in the middle of the ring and tell me if you've ever seen that spot before. Maybe it's happened in Japan.
No, it happened. I think I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch, but I don't know. I mean, WWE, I'm not sure, but I have seen that spot a bunch.
Are you guys? Am I the only non-hipster here? So we don't have to talk about all these. I was the only person that had pretty deadly just because I know how good they are. It's because I watch NXT. They're
No,
really good.
No,
You
they
think-
are
Do
good.
you think Triple H brings back Fashion Police to have a match with those guys?
Oh,
I think you know my feelings on the Fashion Police. You know my feelings on Breezango. Very fond of them.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I was the only people that picked.
You're the only people, so
I
you're
was the
like
only-
there's two Bills running around.
I was the
here?
only people that picked. Well, me and Reba. Dewdrop and Nikki SH. You guys were both right with Caden. If you can name both of them, I'll be impressed.
Caden Carter and Katana, whatever her name is. I can't think of her last name.
So close. Katana Chance.
Shit. See,
They went over, so you guys got that one. And then we had Tyler Bate versus Braun Breaker. Good match.
no,
Above average. Very above average.
the right guy went over. Obviously, I thought that Tyler Bate. I don't know if they're going to do with NXT Europe, but Tyler Bate, if they're not going to do NXT Europe, like I said last week, I think he should be going to the main roster. But either way, the right guy goes over in Braun Breaker, and you can continue that run as long as you want to until JD McDonough or somebody else usurps him for the title. But the right guy went over. Good match.
Any thoughts, Zach?
He didn't watch it.
I didn't know. But
Absolute
I thought,
fucking bullshit. Unprofessional bullshit.
You a fucking guy on the
All right.
podcast. You got to watch it all.
I guess that'll be it for the 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
Let's get to those odds and ends.
This is banned from Ringside.
Not much this week, guys. Bailey's faction is now called Damage Control, but Control is spelled capital C, capital T, capital R, capital L. You guys good with that?
I think we could have done better.
All right. We didn't talk about Braun Strowman coming back. He looked incredible.
do you think they bring back the rest of the Riot Squad and then rename them Alt Delete? Sorry.
He's heating up.
It's actually not a bad name for a faction, though, either.
Bray Wyatt. Yes, that's the question. Is Bray Wyatt coming back?
No, that's not what I was going to ask. I was just saying, did you see Braun? He looked badass. I mean, he's an insane-looking human, is what I'm saying.
I get it, but I mean, now we're getting to the point where what is Braun going to do? I mean, there's one title, and Roman Reigns holds it. So I mean, if you're going to do Braun coming back, I mean, it's title or bust. Am I not right?
Well, maybe he flips a bloodline heel. We didn't really talk about Solo Sikoa, but it is cool. Solo Sikoa is a cool wrestler.
A, makes sense. B, you got Sami Zayn drama.
Dude, the Sami Zayn tweets this weekend where he was getting mad at Solo Sikoa's there because he's like, blood is everything. And he's like, yeah, blood's everything, but like, what about a guy that's helped out your family a whole lot?
That's the next comment. That's why I love Sami Zayn.
The other thing I want, Zach, nobody likes Braun, right?
No.
Did you guys see the cage match between Miz and Lashley this weekend on Raw? Did you guys see the ending
I saw the
of it?
clip of Dexter Lumis, and it was
the
so
camera angle
the
is
way
great.
they shot it was so cinematic, and then like to see it from Miz's perspective, and
like,
Lumis
what
is
the
just
fuck?
sticking out of there. Legitimately one of the funniest things I've ever seen on WWE television.
You knew who was going to win, but how we were going to get there is always my question. And when you see Miz coming out of the ring, I'm like, okay, where's Dexter Lumis? Where's Dexter Lumis? He pops out from literally under the fucking ring.
There's
perfect.
Under the umbrella of professional wrestling, there's so many things that can happen. There's CM Punk going off on his company and everything, and then there's Dexter Lumis just
like,
sticking his
hanging out underneath the ring for like 20 minutes. Oh, it's my time to come out.
Yeah, they had to wheel him out there with the lights off, like you know how they do it.
Somehow he was underneath that ring. And
That's
he
why
came
professional wrestling is the greatest thing.
God bless him
in the world.
Amen. New Japan. Can I say something about New Japan for 30 seconds?
Are you going to talk about the Naito thing?
No, it's not even the Naito thing. Fans came back, and I'll just say New Japan Wrestling is back. Period.
Very much looking forward to it.
You should. It's a good ass time.
This is banned from ringside.
All right, tonight we got some birthdays this week.
I'm not playing the who's dead or who's not dead.
There's only one that I have a question about.
Jesus Christ.
Raven is alive. He's
Yes.
58.
Yes.
Brian Pillman Jr. alive. 29.
No, we saw him on the Ric Flair last match card.
Sarah Logan, 29.
Should be coming back with the Viking Raiders.
Don Morocco.
He is R.I.P. I know it for fact.
All right. Well,
Joey does not have to text you 2 days later to be like Don Morocco is still alive. He is R.I.P.
That was the only one I was worried about. Matt Morgan is 46. Always loved Matt Morgan in TNA. Love the name of his finisher, the carbon footprint.
Because he was the blueprint.
Yep. Trevor Murdoch is 42. Paul Heyman. You want to guess how old Paul Heyman is? Zach, go ahead. You go first.
61.
Jason.
Hang on. I'm carrying the one. 64.
57.
What?
Born in 65.
Damn. He's closer to my age. Holy shit.
Road Warrior Animal.
Definitely alive.
Yep, he's 62.
No, he died.
No, that's
he was-
Hawk
that was Hawk.
died.
Yeah, Animal's still alive.
Animal just died recently. I thought.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You didn't know that?
Absolute fucking bullshit.
We also have Baron Corbin is 38. And Penelope Ford is 30. Now listen, every week
He died September 22nd, 2020.
that's me and my wife's anniversary. She just walked in the door. That's an omen.
Damn. Yep.
Sorry to step on your Penelope Ford. What were you saying?
Hey, baby. Sorry, I got distracted there. No, she's still alive. She's 30.
Oh, Jesus Christ. See, I'm not playing this game anymore.
Why not?
No, I'm not. Because every time I play this game, I look like the asshole because I'm like, oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead. Maybe he's alive. No, he's dead.
Rabbit fever.
I mean, maybe you look like the asshole
Because I'm the asshole.
because you're the asshole.
Down for a fight. Get on
For Vice, for
Check.
Jinder Mahal,
Check.
for Joey O'Farrell,
Check.
for Wrestling at the Grand L.
Double check.
'cause when we get up and go.
For Reba.
For Reba the Dog,
Yes.
for
Check.
Sandra the Cat, for
Check.
Millie the Cat,
Check.
for Zach Pullman, our friend in the Pacific Northwest.
BFR
and
West is in the house,
Love of
baby.
our lives, for Jason Cornelius Bell,
Konnichiwa,
right here
bitches.
from St. Louis, Missouri. I am Bill Veggie. Everybody
Check.
remember to tip your bartenders
Check.
and boo the heels.